And now it's a great pleasure for me to ask our royal guest, His Royal Highness Prince Juan Carlos, who incidentally knows a lot more about flying than I do because he pilots his own helicopter, to greet the men and women of NASA and to give us, in some measure, his reactions to this historic occasion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. You said that we were fans. We are fans. We came here in 1962 in our honeymoon. We met some of you that we saw today, and we were very happy to see them again. We saw the installations and the facilities of NASA in Houston, with Dr. Lowe was there then, at the time, and we were very much interested. Personally, I followed a few of the tracking stations you have in my country. I know the people there, and I know how well they are doing. Here, I don't have any words because you are the man who put up those 3 men that now go to the moon, and you're doing so much for progress and for the whole humanity that I'm very proud to be a part of you today. Congratulations, and thank you very much.
The man in the center of the screen there, who is right to the left of Vice President Agnew, to the right on your screen, was Walter Caprian, who was the launch director today, as he has been for the last several Apollo shots. Was the man who had to say that the cloud cover today didn't contain the same sort of threat that unexpectedly developed on Apollo 12 when he decided that it was all right to go. And he must have had real crossed fingers at this launch of Apollo 14 through this very heavy cloud cover. But now Apollo 14's on the way. It is in orbit, 118 miles above the...
Out on the road, tonight on Mount Sunflower in Kansas.
Good evening. The uncertainty that's been hanging over the Apollo 14 mission throughout most of the day has now been settled. The decision is to go for a landing on the moon. The official announcement came late this afternoon from Apollo mission director Chester Lee.
We are proceeding with every intention of making a full lunar landing mission. With regard to the docking difficulties that we had yesterday, first of all, we did have a successful docking, and every indication is that it was a normal docking. Since that time, as you well know, the crew early this morning took the probe out of the tunnel, and a visual inspection was made. A number of operating tests were conducted. Al Shepard got into the LEM and on the drogue portion and observed Stu Russo as he put the probe in. The capture latches worked normal. From all indications, all the operating parts were operating normally. In addition to that, people have been making extensive analyses here, and we can find nothing wrong with the probe.
This is Bruce Morton in Houston, and this is the docking probe, a test model, not quite as shiny as the one aboard Apollo 14, but the same machine which has caused so many anxious thoughts and tests here. With me is Bob White, a subsystem manager with NASA, whose domain includes the docking probe. Bob, how should it work?
Well, Bruce, the probe being mounted in the command module is flown into the drogue, which is mounted into the LEM tunnel. The idea being we have a funnel effect here with an apex hole that would capture into the 3 capture latches in the probe head. Upon capture, the probe latches would lock and you could not separate. If I may demonstrate here. Now we have a situation where we have the 3 latches behind the drogue and you cannot separate. Of course, we also have the remote capability of undocking at any time we desire.
Now, what happened last night, I suppose, was that they weren't locking somehow.
That apparently is right. Either they weren't making it all the way into the hole of the drogue, or we were having a malfunction in the locking mechanism.
Do you know what went wrong? You never could get it to go wrong again when the astronauts tried.
We've looked at all the preliminary information we have, and we can't get any any indication of what really did happen. We've had the crew do a post-docking test on the probe. They cycled all the mechanisms that we suspected. Everything worked beautifully, and we just have no doubt that the mechanism is now operating like it should.
This probe has to work again. They're going ahead to land on the moon now. Are you confident that it will?
Yes. After the testing we did last night, I just can't see where we're going to have any more problems with it.
So Apollo 14, hopefully with a problem-free probe and drogue, is go for a moon landing. Bruce Morton, CBS News at the Manned Spacecraft Center, Houston.
The Apollo 14 spacecraft is now about 3/4 of the way to the moon. It was a quiet day for the astronauts. They slept most of the day, and even when awake, they're turning out to be the least talkative in the Apollo program. At one point today, Mission Control called up to say, "Just want to see if you all are still around." The astronauts go into orbit around the moon Thursday morning with the moon landing set for 4:17 Eastern Standard Time Friday morning. The United States now is spending about $1 billion. The Apollo 14 astronauts spent another restful day today. Their spacecraft picking up speed, now just hours away from going into orbit around the moon. There was one new concern back on the ground, but space agency officials tended to discount it. David Shoemaker reports.
Engineers at Mission Control say they're not worried, but they did spend a lot of time today talking about a problem in one of the two batteries the lunar module needs to get back off the moon Saturday. Battery has a slightly low voltage reading, an indication, possibly, that something somewhere is causing an electrical drain. But, according to the engineers, it's even more possible that the instrument gauge is off, so unless there's some drastic change, they'll go ahead with the landing. The astronauts are unworried, slept most of the day here in the command module. Early this morning, Shepard and Mitchell crawled through the tunnel into the lunar module and reported that everything is ready. First, Shepard.
The purpose of the excursion into the lab at this time is to check out some of the communications, do a little housekeeping, look the vehicle over, and also in this particular case, we're going to take some pictures of the command module while we're there. This is done during the flight on the way to the moon to save time so that when we actually go into the lab for the final time prior to the descent, there will be less things to do. The cabin of both the command module and the lab are extremely clean. We're very pleased with the way they've looked. Very good. So far, everything is working very well with the command module. We're very pleased with the way the systems are working. Everything is quiet, going along extremely smoothly, and we have a happy little ship here.
Tonight, just before breaking into lunar orbit, the astronauts will go into the LEM again for one more check of that weak battery. David Shoemaker, CBS News Space Headquarters, New York.
Apollo 14 astronauts Alan Shepard and Edgar Mitchell are just hours away from their landing on the moon. The spaceship is whirling around the moon in a tight orbit, swooping just 10 miles over their planned landing spot. Their schedule calls for setting down on the moon at 4:17 a.m. Eastern Time, followed by a long moonwalk later tomorrow morning. The Apollo 14 crew swung into lunar orbit early this morning, and here were some of their reactions. First, Shepard.
Well, it really is a wild place up here. It has all of the grays, browns, white, dark craters that everybody's talked about before. It's really quite a sight. I think the best description that comes to my mind, we mentioned this when we first looked at this site, is that it looks like a plaster mold that somebody has dusted with grays and browns. But it looks like it's been molded out of plaster of Paris.
Roger it. We've got you in a 9.3 by 59.0.
Okay, sounds pretty good. 9.3 by 59.0.
Gotcha.
I guess we can make it down from there tomorrow.
CBS News live coverage of the moon landing begins at 4 a.m. Eastern Time and of the moonwalk at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And for the first time, the pictures from the moon's surface are supposed to be in color.